Imagine this. You're in Paris in the summer of 1789. The air smells of sweat, smoke, and desperation. The streets are filled with angry, hungry people. Bread costs a fortune, if you can even find it. And towering above it all is the Bastille, a fortress that has long symbolized royal power. But today's story isn't about the storming of the Bastille or the execution of royalty. It's about the bloodiest period of the Revolution, known as the Reign of Terror. Welcome to Earthsight, where history comes alive. In this video, we're diving deep into one of the most explosive periods in human history, the French Revolution. But this isn't just about storming castles and guillotines. This is a story of how the cost of war with Great Britain, decades of inequality, and the arrogance of privilege brought down a monarchy that believed it could never fall. Let's rewind to the mid-1700s. France was one of the most powerful nations in the world. A glittering monarchy, a strong military, and a culture that influenced all of Europe. But underneath that luxury was a financial disaster waiting to happen. Why? Because wars cost money, and France had fought two big ones. First came the 7 Years' War, 1754 to 1763, a global conflict against Great Britain that France ultimately lost. It was devastating, draining the treasury and costing them colonies in North America and India. Then came the American Revolutionary War, 1775 to 1783. France jumped in to help the American colonies fight Britain, not because they loved liberty, but because they hated their old rival. The gamble paid off politically, but financially, it was a nightmare. By the time the war ended, France's national debt had skyrocketed. The government owed money to everyone, foreign lenders, domestic bankers, you name it. And to make things worse, France's tax system was broken. The wealthiest, the nobility, and the clergy paid little to nothing, leaving the burden on the poor and the middle class. And then came the final blow, bad harvests in the late 1780s. Grain prices soared. Bread, the staple of the French diet, became a luxury. People were starving, and they were furious. On May 5, 1789, King Louis XVI convened the Estates General, a gathering of representatives from France's three traditional social classes, or estates. The first estate was the clergy, priests, bishops, and church officials. The second estate, the nobility, the wealthy landowners and aristocrats. And the third estate, everyone else, merchants, artisans, peasants, basically 97% of France. The big question? How should they vote? Should each estate get one vote? Or should everyone vote together as individuals? If it was by estate, the first and second estates could always team up and outvote the third. And that's exactly what the privileged classes wanted. But the third estate wasn't having it. When the king refused to budge, the third estate took matters into their own hands. They broke away and began meeting separately, calling themselves the communes. By June 13th, they declared themselves the National Assembly, claiming they represented the true will of the French people. Fast forward to July 14th, 1789. Paris is in chaos. Food shortages have pushed the people to the edge. Rumors are flying that the king is planning a military crackdown. The National Assembly is under threat. A mob storms the Bastille, a medieval fortress that had long symbolized the king's absolute power. They free a handful of prisoners, seize weapons, and kill the governor. They even parade his head through the streets. In August, the National Assembly makes its next bold move, the Declaration of the Rights of Man and of the Citizen. For a brief moment, it looked like the revolution might bring justice and fairness. At first, the king pretended to play along, but secretly, he was plotting his escape. On June 21st, 1791, Louis XVI and his family fled Paris, hoping to rally support from loyal troops. It didn't work. They were captured and dragged back in disgrace. And then came the moment that shocked the world. On January 21st, 1793, King Louis XVI was executed by guillotine. Marie Antoinette followed later that year. From September 5th, 1793, to July 28, 1794, France descended into a nightmare known as the Reign of Terror. Led by men like Maximilien Robespierre, The revolutionaries launched a campaign to purge enemies of the revolution. At first, they targeted royalists and aristocrats. But soon, anyone with the wrong political opinion or simply the wrong connections was fair game. Even former revolutionaries were executed if they spoke out. The guillotine became a symbol of both justice and horror. Tens of thousands died, around 40,000 in total, and no one was safe during the Reign of Terror. If you learned something new today, hit like, share this video, and subscribe for more history brought to life by Earthsight. Thank you for watching. And remember, history isn't just about the past. It's the story of how we got here.